In today's polarized discourse, the word racism is hurled like confetti at a parade. Ubiquitous, colorful, but ultimately empty. What was once a grave accusation denoting systemic hatred and discrimination has been so overused, falsely applied, and abused by the toxic left that it has lost all meaning. This isn't an accident. It's a calculated strategy to sow division and consolidate power. As critics warn, labeling everything racist renders the term meaningless, cheapening genuine instances of bigotry. Critics echo this, arguing that incessant cries of racism have desensitized society, making it harder to address real prejudice when it does occur. The result is a society where legitimate victims are drowned out by opportunistic noise. Consider the litany of false accusations peddled by the left. In 2024, Kate O., a senior policy counsel at the ACLU, was fired after being accused of using racist language targeting people of color in the workplace. O denied the allegations, and a federal judge ruled that the ACLU had illegally terminated her, finding the accusations baseless. In 2023, Dermisha Pickett, a 33-year-old Cincinnati tenant, was charged with federal crimes for falsely accusing her landlord of racial discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. Pickett fabricated messages claiming the landlord did not want black tenants, which she then reported to authorities. In February 2021, Smith College conducted an investigation into an incident initially highlighted in a viral social media post that alleged racial discrimination against a student while she was eating her lunch in a campus dining hall. The investigation determined no wrongdoing by the staff involved. A more recent example underscores this absurdity. The toxic left's meltdown over Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle jeans ad campaign. Titled, "Sydney Sweeney Has Great Genes," the innocuous pun on jeans with a G and jeans with a J was twisted into accusations of promoting eugenics, Nazi propaganda, and white supremacy, simply because the actress is white, blonde, and blue-eyed. Critics decried it as evoking Western beauty standards and racism, while backlash highlighted the overreaction as a reason Americans rejected woke politics. This manufactured controversy exemplifies how the left weaponizes racism against anything that doesn't fit their narrative, turning a simple clothing ad into a battlefield for identity grievances. As an aside, Beyoncé, who culturally appropriated country music with her contrived Cowboy Carter stunt, did an almost identical ad, and no one cried foul. It was only because Sweeney was white that the lunatics came out of the woodwork. On social media, users decry how terms like microaggressions serve as pretexts for baseless attacks. Chris Harrison, former Bachelor host, was called racist after defending a contestant for attending an antebellum-themed college party years prior, saying people should offer her a little grace. Country singer Morgan Wallen was caught on video drunkenly saying the N-word to a friend outside his home. His friend wasn't even black. Joe Rogan was caught on video saying the N-word in historical context during a past podcast episode and was called a racist. Unfunny late-night show Jimmy Fallon was featured in an old Saturday Night Live sketch where he did a Chris Rock impersonation in blackface makeup. Social media lit up with accusations of racism. The popular singer Adele posted a photo of herself wearing a Jamaican flag bikini and Bantu knots to celebrate the Notting Hill Carnival in London. She was accused of cultural appropriation and racism. More social media posts point out, rightfully, that society has tired of racial preferencing and the false sense of entitlement that comes with it. These aren't isolated voices. They're part of a growing fatigue associated with having to tolerate the arrogant entitlement of race baiters lest the accusation of racism be leveled, where disagreement is reframed as hatred, dividing and eroding trust and dialogue. This abuse stems from the toxic left's embrace of identity politics, a divisive tool designed not for unity, but for political opportunism. By pitting groups against each other, victims versus oppressors, and all whites, especially white males, are oppressors in their context. They exploit falsely instilled resentment to maintain control. Identity politics shifts focus from individual merit to group leverage, fueling partisanship and remaking society along racial and gender lines for power. It has evolved from inclusion to division, with surveys showing deepening distrust among racial groups. Targeting racial communities has backfired, alienating voters by prioritizing identity over shared issues. This greed for power is evident in staged narratives, like labeling American flags as blatant racism or pushing a black Pledge of Allegiance that most black Americans ignore, all to vilify the white population and specifically conservatives. The left's hypocrisy shines through. They decry racism while segregating spaces and attacking minorities who stray from the party line as white supremacist adjacent. At the heart of this division lies a fundamental misunderstanding or deliberate misrepresentation of America's essence. We are not a multicultural mosaic where cultures remain siloed. We are a melting pot, omnicultural in our blending. Immigrants don't cling to separate identities. They melt together, abandoning old ways to forge a unique American one. This unity is true diversity. It builds cohesive societies superior to multiculturalism's retention of divisions. A melting pot mixes freely, borrowing and blending into something new, not parallel existences. Our American identity, rooted in shared values like liberty and opportunity, transcends origins, making us exceptional. The toxic left rejects this, pushing victim groups over self-reliant individuals, eroding the American idea. The blame for our national rift falls squarely on the toxic left's insatiable hunger for dominance. They hype racism illusions to justify their existence, dividing to conquer, while the media knives carve us apart. Policies like Boston's race-based discrimination in aid exemplified this racism infused into governance. Their tactics, hyper-awareness of race, segregation in schools, attacks on whiteness, manufacture the very resentment they claim to fight. The toxic left's greed for power, not unity, drives the national divide, as their illusions of racism and divisive tactics fracture society. Pride in our unique Americanism, forged in the omnicultural melting pot, does not erase the sins of the past, slavery, segregation, or injustice, but unites us as one people bound by shared values of liberty and opportunity to overcome them and pursue a more perfect union, despite the left's efforts to erode this ideal for their own gain. The label of racist has lost its meaning. It bears no societal stain that anyone is ashamed to carry anymore. The opportunists of the toxic left have done an incredible disservice to humanity by making a word that once addressed a horrible cultural ill mean absolutely nothing, and all for opportunistic gain. When we return, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station WGUL AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.